Pepe, how do you see the other side? How do you see the side of these Atlanticists in Iran and Russia? What is their position as time goes by?
It depends on the issue, Nima. That's a very complex discussion. For instance, I was reading today something that was published in a very serious portal in English, Russian, German as well, debunking some people who are posing as Russian experts who seem to know exactly what goes on in the real corridors of power in Russia. The analysis is essentially correct because nobody, especially us, foreign uh, analysts, reporters, correspondents, etc., even spending a lot of time in Russia, we really don't know. Nobody really knows. And in my personal case, that in this past 3 years, I spent a lot of time in Russia and I made some very good connections and I was received with open arms because I was one of the very few foreigners who actually decided to actually go to Russia and spend a lot of time in Russia and talk to everybody and understand the Russian point of view on several levels. Our access and the information that we have access to has a limit. And obviously, the best we can aspire to is to have people who work closely with the intel apparatus, with the agencies, or worked before, or have very good contacts, or even think tanks. But there's a limit. The ones who really know what's really going on are Vladimir Putin and the Security Council. Nobody else. And of course, Gerasimov. Gerasimov has to know for obvious reasons, Minister of Defense. And that's it. There's a lot of stuff that not even the Minister of Foreign Relations in Russia knows. So this is so you cannot pose as a Russian expert anywhere, wherever you come from, and it doesn't matter how much time you spend over there. You're always learning. From my point of view, I keep myself in Russia in the position of a non-stop full-time student. I'm always learning. And I'm always learning about especially subtleties of the Russian way of thinking and making decisions and planning long term. For instance, you cannot but admire how they are planning the development of their Far East, of Siberia and the Russian Far East. This is something that you see every year in the Vladivostok forums, essentially. So you learn to understand and to praise Russian long-term planning, Chinese style. In the case of the SMO, it's much more complicated because there is a spectrum of opinions about how the SMO should be conducted. And if you go to a very nice dinner in Moscow and you have 4 or 5 people on the table, they will all have divergent analysis of how the SMO was organized and should proceed from now on. And these are very well informed, educated, and connected people. So there's no monopoly of how Putin is going to end the SMO. Okay, look, it's on public record from Putin and from everybody else at the top of the government. Demilitarization means demilitarization of Ukraine and NATO. So as soon as Putin and the Security Council are sure that they did 90% of the job, approaching 100%, that's it. From their point of view, that will be the end of the SMO. It's going to take a long time. And denazification, it's a matter of generations. You cannot then denazify Ukraine in 1 or 2 years. It will take 2 generations at least. That's a long-term process. So, and now when they are facing, once again, Narcissus drowning in his own swamp every day, infatuated with his image and changing his point of view every 5 seconds, or one news cycle to another. I'm going to organize a meeting with Putin in Hungary. I already called Orban. Everything is going to be all right. And then a few days later, I don't want to waste my time. How can you trust a political leader like this? There's no strategy. There's nothing. It's just this non-stop circus that monopolizes the news cycle, non-stop monopolizes our attention, independent analysts, non-stop, and nobody can make sense of it because there is no sense in it, because nobody else makes decisions in Washington, D.C. It's only the big Narcissus. It's only the circus ringmaster, and everybody has to, yes, master. He qualified himself as ruler of the world, the king of whatever. And it's not in jest. He actually believes that he's the king of the world. This is not a joke. In his mind, he is the king of the world. He decides everything. And he is entitled to change his mind all the time, because after all, he's the president of the most important power in the history of humanity. How can you possibly have... It's hard to, of course, considering what is leaked from both sides when Putin and Trump talk on the phone. What is really leaked is, I would say, 10 or 15, 20% of what they actually discuss. I can imagine the silences in between. And I can imagine Putin trying to explain some basic lessons of history to Trump over the phone, which is something practically impossible. Nobody can do that. Or at least some basic facts of life. Like, all right, you're going to authorize Tomahawks to launch against us. So this is how we're going to respond. Putin can say that in 30 seconds in a very understandable manner as well. And then Trump, okay, he absorbs that for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but then half an hour later, he changes his mind. So, there's no continuity, there's no organization, there is not a real National Security Council properly advising the president, because those members are most absolute idiots. We have a real state mogul posing as a Bismarck. Come on, it's a circus. It's a circus. So once again, you have to praise Russian patience, Putin's own patience, and the patience of the Security Council around him, which is not necessarily the patience of the FSB or the SVR. You see, the latest public appearances of Narishkin and Bortnikov, that they are really, really fed up with all that. I can imagine if Narishkin or Bortnikov were the president of the Russian Federation. We will not be where we are now. It will be infinitely more heavy metal than where we are now. But that's it, that's Putin. And then Putin is accused of, now he's going to give even more territory to Ukraine than a few months ago. No, this is a negotiation process. These idiots don't understand the Russian way of negotiating. And of course, Putin can destabilize Trump completely when he says, look, of course I want to make a deal. But to make a deal, you have to listen to my priorities. If you don't listen to my priorities, there's no deal, because it's going to be your deal. And your deal is not my deal. A deal is between both of us. Try to explain that to Trump, Nima, over the phone.
Impossible.
Impossible.
Pepe, the main issue, it seems, as they talk about it, is an immediate ceasefire, which is not acceptable for Russians.
No. Lavrov already said no way. And this is the polite response. No?
Yeah. And the key for that, I think, what you've mentioned, demilitarization and denazification. But you cannot demilitarize Ukraine without demilitarizing NATO in that region.
Exactly.
This is the key there. And
Absolutely.
what they fail to understand, in my opinion, is that China would be more than happy with that concept Iran would be more than happy with that concept. Look at the war between Iran and Israel. You had NATO interfering in favor of Israel. If they go to Taiwan, they're going to be NATO against, China. That's
NATO as support to the US? Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Support because it's all NATO.
Yes, exactly.
Think
It's all
of it.
NATO.
The
It's all
5%,
NATO.
2 to 5% goes to goes to the United States. It's not going to the pocket of military industrial complex of Europe. They don't have that in Europe.
They don't have anything. Well, they're trying. Leonardo and Thales, they say that they're going to, boost the non-existent, by the way, European industrial military complex. Well, these are two serious companies, at least, but they don't have what it takes to build from scratch and something from scratch. And basically, the real participants of this new Euro-wide industrial military complex would be maximum 4 nations, maybe 5. That's it. Can you imagine Estonia being part of the Latvia being part of the industrial military complex? That's a joke.
And coming back to the main goal, which would be demilitarization of NATO, I think China, Iran, and Russia would go to, as long as it takes to do that in Ukraine, because it's crucial for BRICS. It's not just about Russia. It's the full. It's all
Of
about
course.
the whole global South.
Mhm.
The future of BRICS, the future of other organizations in the global South, and Russia is not going to back down on that. But I don't see Donald Trump, as you mentioned, understanding the position of Russia, which is fully supported by other countries, even I would argue India, because of the case of Pakistan. And they know the threat coming from Pakistan is real, and how the situation in Pakistan can be manipulated by the United States.
By the way, the Americans are manipulating those stupid Pakistani generals like that. This is an enormous problem for the SCO. So can you imagine? Russia and China will have to sit down with the Pakistanis within the SCO mandate and ask, guys, get your act together. What is this story with Afghanistan? You provoked this whole thing with Afghanistan. You have to understand, you more than anybody else know the difference between the Afghan Taliban government in Kabul and the TTP, the Pakistani Taliban in the tribal areas inside Pakistan, part of Pakistan. You know the difference. It's not the same thing. It was never the same thing from the beginning. And you're falling for that once again. So these people are really, really stupid. If Imran Khan was prime minister, there will never have been this mini Afghan Pakistani war. Never, never. And the problem is this absolutely disgusting Pakistani generals. I have some of my academic friends in Pakistan. They are horrified about all that. And even for them, it's dangerous to write about it and to discuss that in public. They know these people very, very well. This is the lowest strata of Pakistani armed forces, arrivistes, opportunists, people who want to curry favor, their own, thinking about their own career or getting some favors, especially from the Americans. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It has nothing to do with Pakistani sovereignty. So this should be a problem to be tackled by the SCO. For the moment, not much. Not much. And this so-called peace agreement or beginning of a peace agreement between Pakistan and Afghanistan was not coordinated by the SCO. That's not good. That's not good at all.